Hello and welcome to week 5 of season 2 in 2024. This is the Team Conti Sim Performance track guide for the NASCAR NextGen Cup car, and we're at Texas Motor Speedway, a place where I've had some success in the past. So I guess I have to like it because I've won here, but otherwise this is a track, and we'll leave it at that. But we're going to be positive, and we're going to talk about how to maximize the potential of the setup this week and the potential of your ability this week. And we'll give you some tips and tricks to getting around here as effectively as possible. Okay, so this is going to be really weather and pace dependent, but for the purposes of this testing, with the weather that we're in and with the pace that I'm running out here by myself, let's talk about the shift pattern first. So you can see here we're going to keep it in 4th gear from the exit of turn 2 all the way around the track until we get to about the start-finish line. Down the front stretch here, shift at about 9,000 RPM up to 5th, keep it in 5th for about half that straightaway, enter to turn 1 right back down to 4th gear. As the times fall off, and again, if the pace slows down a bit more, you can potentially keep it in 4th gear all the way around. But if the weather's any cooler, or if you're in draft, you're definitely going to be shifting up to 5th down the front stretch, possibly down the back as well, just depending on how much speed you can carry there. So either way, you're going to be shifting at some point this week, but in our testing weather, 5th gear down the front, down to 4th early into 1, and hold it there the rest of the lap. Let's talk about the line and the approach. So this is critical, and as we run through turn 1 and 2 here, I cannot overstate enough at that end of the track there. You cannot overdrive the entry. Overdriving the entry into 1 and 2 is just so bad as far as stressing those right side tires out. And as much heat as we're building in the right sides this week, and as heat influences wear, or the more heat you build early, the more you're going to wear those tires out, the quicker you're going to wear them out, and your long run's going to suffer. So really backing up that entry into 1 and using an earlier entry than I have in the past. Found that getting down to that white line a bit earlier is taking a little bit extra stress out of the tires versus the wide arc and run down the hill. But just really trying to lift and brake in such a way into 1 that I feel like I'm not scrubbing the front on the way down the hill. So braking a few car lengths past that AAA sign, trailing a bit of brake into the 3/8 mark, and then just rolling into the throttle, but not so much that I'm getting off that white line. You'll see I've got plenty of room off the corner, off the 2. I'm not tracking right out to the wall. I could potentially carry a bit more speed at this point in the run. But again, in the interest of managing some tire, the best thing I can do right here is find a pace that feels comfortable for me and the car. And in that pace is 6s to start, give or take. Not a whole lot of wheel input into 1 and 2, a little bit more lock in the center of the corner, but unlike weeks past where we've been at short tracks, we're not getting anywhere near that 90-degree mark, well below that. And looking at 3 and 4 here, as you can see, 3 and 4, lots and lots of throttle, lots of grip. The toughest part about 3 and 4 are honestly these bumps. As low as we run these cars, especially in the back of the diffuser, hitting those bumps in any way that's not straight really starts to scrub that right rear, which is why you'll notice as we get down into 3 again this next lap, I'm pulling it off the wall pretty early and trying to really shallow off and straighten up that entry so I can get down to the white line and keep it there. So there's that caution light into 3, pulling it down just before that, coming to about 75% throttle, and then getting right back into 100 shortly thereafter. You can use more or less throttle depending on what you're trying to accomplish pace-wise, but ultimately it's very, very possible to run wide open in 3 and 4, but again, not to sound like a broken record, more throttle used at that end of the track, more temperature buildup, more wear, or fall off. And keeping it in 4th gear, cracking the 75 and back to 100%, keeping it as low as I can to that white line without hitting the white line and upsetting the car. And like the exit of turn 2, not tracking all the way out to the wall off the 4, especially early on when we have an abundance of grip. You see that roll into the throttle there before committing to 100%. It's not a light switch, okay? You cannot light switch the throttle in 1 and 2. You will go straight. And it might work for a couple laps and be okay, but you're going to notice that your fall off is way worse than your competitors. Probably not going to run any quicker early on, and you're just going to fall off a ton, which nobody wants to see. So just take care of the car, it'll take care of you. Coming to lap 10 here. Just, you know, a little bit more and more cautious with that throttle with every lap that passes, and that's going to become more noticeable past lap 15 and 20 when the times really start to fade away. See, pushing on this lap 10 here, 100% throttle from 3 and 4. Little bit of slip at the right rear, but nothing too bad. And now I pushed on lap 10. You'll notice I was even more hesitant back to the throttle off of 2 right there. Just trying not to compound that heat in the tires. If you push lap after lap after lap, you're just putting more and more temperature into the tires, and it's harder to get temperature out of them the more you put in them, if that makes sense. So after a push lap, I back it off a bit, try to get those tires cooled, get them back into their window, whatever that may be. You can just kind of feel it. You can feel the grip fade away quickly when you push too hard for too long. It's really nothing that I can explain, but for anybody listening, you can probably understand where I'm coming from. You feel it in the wheel, you feel it in your pedal rumblers, feel it in your butt kickers. You can just feel the whole car just kind of sliding. You don't want to do that. A lot of people have a bad habit of tracking out off of turn 2 really early by throttling up super quick, and you can really tell that I'm trying to wrap that white line for as long as possible in 1 and 2. And that bottom is probably going to be preferred for most of your races, especially in terms of tire wear. You can manage your tires much better on the bottom than you can anywhere else, but as these tracks get rubbered in, especially this place, the bottom's going to get super slick. That'll probably open up the middle to 3rd lane at both ends. So definitely feel free to venture up there in your races, but the more you run up there, the more you're stressing the tires, and like I said, I'm not going to do a broken record. You know where it goes from there. Approaching lap 15 here, still in the 7s, so about a quarter second of fall off from my best lap of the run, which was a low 5. This is definitely a more of a right rear limited setup for us this week. Then front limited, you kind of need to be a little bit free, just so that when you get into traffic, you're not plowing. So I'm really just trying to manage my throttle commitment at both ends. Even in 3 and 4, you can really get on that right rear early in the corner and stay there. Since you're going so fast, it definitely can get it mad very quickly. But off of 2 right here, just notice not trying to counter steer too much. Keep that wheel to the left or as straight as possible. I have to start cranking back to the right. I'm definitely overstepping the limit of the grip of this car. You know, all those little micro corrections that you see in 1 and 2, those are fine. When you start seeing that big tug of wheel back to the right, and you hear the engine start to bog down, you know you're past the optimal slip for the car, and you're just bogging it down, slowing yourself down, stressing the car out, and getting nothing positive from it. So probably won't notice that in this run, which is good. Basically wide open in 3 and 4 here. At this point of the run, you start to feel the front grip fade away a little bit. In with that, you feel the rear grip fade away. It's pretty neutral. You'll see toward the end of the run, it definitely becomes more rear limited. But overall, this is one of those places where if you take care of the car and you manage it early, it's going to pay you back in dividends later, compared to those that just go all out and roast tires off it. So I'll cut out for a couple laps here, let you all see what's going on without me yapping in your ear, and we'll be back in about 5 laps or so. Alright, so starting lap 23 here. You'll notice not much has changed with the approach on entry, fairly similar. We'll be carrying a bit more brake into and through the 3/8 mark, and a little bit later to commit to throttle as these tires wear. Not too much different. You can feel that there's a bit more slip in 3 and 4. To give you an idea of what that looks like outside the car, let's back up here, and you can see I'm still doing my best Randy Mullins impersonation 2 weeks after I raced for him. So that just goes to show how lazy I am about switching paint schemes. So shout out to Randy and his sponsors making another appearance on the TCSP track guide. But anyway, with that being said, let's look at the slip angle in 3 and 4. Slip being the difference between the right rear and the right front. Basically the amount the car is sliding through this corner. You can see, yep, hung out a little bit right there, and that's just wearing the right rear tire. So how can I mitigate that? Well, I can definitely just wait to commit to throttle, right? Commit to throttle right here, hits a bump right there, slides out. So if I can carry partial throttle through that bump in 3 and 4, I could probably keep the car straighter and keep some stress out of that right rear tire. At this point in the run, I'm not really trying to save too much. I'm more or less going to 100%. But if I was in a race where I potentially had to go 50 plus laps, I'd probably be a bit more hesitant to commit to throttle that early on, just to give you all some perspective. Now, if I could find the cockpit camera again, that'd be great. There we go, back inside the car. Hit the apron right there, so that's probably not the best thing to do. And see right there, that's the counter steer. Let's back this up a little bit. That's counter steer you don't want to see. That right there, too much. So that's hard on the right rear. Made good lap time, but at what expense, right? And what is that going to cost me later on in the run? Won't feel it through 30, but definitely driving this hard, I'd start to suffer 40, 50 in. So just gotta practice, find that pace that's good for you. That's a good mix between having pace to where you're not losing much track position, but not so much that you're falling off a cliff in the latter half of the run. Still the 2s at 25, really good long run pace on this run, even with some of my driving errors. I'll try to keep it nice and straight off too. 4th gear, nothing's changed here. Very much so a rhythm racetrack, similar to Martinsville. Get your lift points, get your brake points. Just feed it throttle, but be nice and smooth. Driving harder will get you basically nothing. Right? Sliding the car around does nothing. Hitting the apron on the entry to turn 3 like I did right there definitely does nothing good for you, so don't do that. Very easy to do though, but learn from my mistakes and try to minimize that. Remember too, you're going to be in a race where you're going to have cars all around, dirty air aplenty. So just make sure you're keeping that left front poked out. That means that you have to enter a little bit lower than the car in front of you, or maybe even a whole lane higher so that whole front end is out in fresh air. Do that. Do everything you can beside running in the tire tracks of the car in front of you, especially down at this end of the track where the car isn't really optimal because it's set up really to clearance itself in 3 and 4. Losing downforce in 1 and 2 is really bad. You're going to be in a 4-wheel slide, so keep clean air to that front end. And coming to start lap 30 here, we'll give it everything it's got. See what we've got left in these tires. A little bit of a wider arc here to maximize lap time. I do not care about tire life or temperatures at this point. A little bit of counter steer off too, but not too bad. Still pulled really nice there. A little bit of a later entry into 3. Really trying to get back to full throttle without shoving the front and snapping the rear. You can see I am right on the limit of grip all the way out to the wall. Finishing lap 30 complete with a 34.48. So just at about a second or so of fall off from the best lap of the run. So that is the Team Conti Sim Performance track guide for the NASCAR Next Gen Cup car for week 5, already to the almost to the midpoint of season 2 on iRacing. So as they say, time flies when we're having fun. Hopefully we're having fun. It's been a tough couple weeks with short tracks and cautions and uh, lots and lots of contact. Texas is definitely a place that has less of that. But still, with the draft and the way the next gens race, you're probably going to be packed up for a bit. Main takeaway, though, is to race your own race. Don't get caught up in what's going on around you. Practice so you know what pace you need to run to manage the tires through the long run. And ultimately, just focus on yourself as best as you can. Focus on yourself, do what you know works, and everything should fall into place. As always, we are here to help. So if you need anything from myself, please feel free to reach out. That is part of this program. Setups only get you so far. This is a great car this week, and I believe in it tremendously. It drives really well for a Texas car, but a lot of it is in the driver's hands. So if there's anything we could do to help your driving out so you can maximize your potential, the car's potential, that is part of why you're here and why I'm here. So with all of that, thanks again for watching the Team Conti Sim Performance Track Guide. Michael Conti here. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.